Guys, what do you think about, we'll start with you, Chris. What's going on with this Steam Deck, whatever they're calling it, this handheld? What do you make of this announcement?
I think it's interesting. I mean, there's definitely a market for it. I don't see anybody like clowning it. Like, I feel like a couple years ago, people would have clowned this thing. I don't know why I get that sense, but I feel like that's true. Where like back then it was just like, you're copying the Switch. Even those like NVIDIA Shield things, I remember looking and being like, is this really all that interesting? But I mean, this thing's pretty strong for how small it is, and you know, it looks kind of cool. It's got the back buttons on it, which makes sense because the placement of the face buttons and the stick make no sense to me. But I think it looks cool. I think it's interesting. I wonder how many people who already have like a really strong gaming PC will want to play games that belong on a strong gaming PC. Like, how many people would bring that onto a portable thing? You know, because I tried playing Doom 2016 on the Switch with the small sticks, and it wasn't even like a frame rate or like resolution issue for me. It was just like the sticks and just the small screen. It all feels like totally wrong for a game like that. It just feels completely like a square peg in a round hole. Like, it just doesn't belong there. So like, I don't know. Like, I wonder what games this is really going to be for, you know, because there's not a lot of PC centric titles that I think are necessarily enhanced by portability.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the sticks because it reminds me a little bit of the Wii U, where the sticks are not in the appropriate place next to the face buttons. This is simply a standard. And if you don't follow this standard, it's not like offset sticks. Things have to flow a certain way. It's just muscle memory built up over decades. You can't try to trend against that. It doesn't make any sense. So when I saw this, I was like, why the fuck do you have the stick, the right stick, parallel to the face buttons, ABXY they're calling them? That was a huge issue for me, but otherwise I think this thing looks and sounds cool. I think this is an awesome idea. And you know what? And this is where I want to kick it to you, Dustin. This reinvigorated in me. I know the price and the modularity or whatever is going to be a problem for a lot of people, but this shows me that even a company as conservative, fiscally and economically conservative as Steam is, they don't do anything. If it like they remember when they made the Steam machine and then they didn't make it, they had like everyone else try to make one, and so it failed, and it was just this entire licensing debacle. They are making this thing. They see the handheld market, and I've been screaming this. Why won't anyone even try? And the weirdest challenger of them all came out of left field with this thing, and I'm rooting for them because I'm like, we need some competition here, and they're trying to at least bring high-end competition like Sony did. It's even higher end than Vita was obviously aiming for. So what do you think about this, Dustin?
It's a very interesting product in that one of the main things they're advertising, it's like your Steam library is already available. And so they're really pitching this to PC gamers who already play games on Steam, and they're pitching this as a portable option. And they've talked about that they're going to sell a dock for it also, so you'll be able to plug it into your TV. And it is interesting in a time when, you know, we see Sony get out of the mobile space and Nintendo just completely dominate, being the only one. So Valve is like, yeah, let's do this. I'm a little cautious of this device, which, by the way, I'm getting major Game Gear vibes from the design.
Yeah,
like,
boxy
straight
like
up.
that. Yeah.
But I think it was in an interview with IGN. I'm trying to find it here. That basically said the battery life is anywhere between 2 and 8 hours. So quite a bit of range. And something they specifically said here was, quote, you can play Portal 2. So a decade old game, Portal 2 for 4 hours. And if you limit it to 30 FPS, you'll be playing for 5 to 6 hours.
I can't hate on that though. I just can't hate on it because it's a powerful machine. It's actually very much like Game Gear in that regard, not the power,
True.
but also about like how it just had no battery life. Like the Game Gear was really only playable if you plugged it in, unless you wanted to because of the backlight. It was outrageous. I mean, this is why Nintendo avoided backlights forever until 2003 when they finally had a rechargeable device. So what do you think about, Chris, this kind of modular approach to pricing? And like, I was interested, they're charging more for like a better glass on the screen. They're charging you to get into the pre-order queue. It's a very libertarian approach. And I'm not saying that in a political way. I'm saying that in an economic way. It's very Steam like. They are coming out. They're saying you'll pay for this thing. You're going to want it. They're doing the same thing with VR. It is aimed at a small audience. And I think that much like their VR initiative is kind of elbowing at Sony's VR initiative, this is now elbowing at Nintendo's Switch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting strategy. Like, I don't know if I don't know if I like the whole like charge for a pre-order thing, but like the better glass, it's like whatever. You could argue that Switch is literally doing that with this OLED model. You know,
Sure.
like what is really the difference between, you know, the current Switch and the OLED Switch? Literally just the screen, and they're charging more for it. So like that stuff, it's like whatever, that's fine. I think this is really cool. I'm curious to see how this thing works, and the battery life is kind of the big thing with this, because like if you're better off just plugging this thing in, you've got a PC that's like infinitely stronger, and that's who this thing is marketed towards, which is the other thing where it's like, yeah, you can't hate on you know, a game lasting longer at 30 FPS or like 2-hour battery life, but like for people who like really care about dropped frames and like dynamic resolution and like anti-aliasing, the people who are like really keyed in on this stuff, who are likely the only people really paying attention to something like this, I feel like that might be a pretty big deal to some of them, even with the excitement of just the premise of having something, you know, portable and powerful in the way that this thing is. I think this is like, this to me screams first generation smartphone, you know, where it's like this technology is going to be really cool eventually. And right now it's up to like a lot of early adopters to kind of prove to Valve that it's worth pursuing for the long haul, which is like a big if with Valve. So
That's true.
that's the, I don't know. I think I'd be more excited if Valve wasn't doing it, because I remember like I remember seeing like Steam Deck, and I remember thinking, oh, it's probably just like a Steam machine again, whatever. Like I didn't even think about it, because I was just like, oh, they probably have some random company building a bunch of these. But no, it's Valve, and I was like, oh shit, crazy. But they already have that like reputation kind of in my head of just like, they'll just throw something, they'll throw like schematics to the wind and let people build shit for them. So
yeah,
we'll see if they do that again.
I think that's a very well said. I really feel like that was the biggest thing I walked away from, was just they're in, and I feel like that says something about what they want to do, and that their willingness to stamp their name on something literally means that, I think, as opposed to figuratively with licensing, I think means that they're in it. I don't think this is going to be like an abandonment project for them. And I agree, this is like a generation 1 device. For me, that stick placement is a no-go. I can't, because I actually was looking at this, and you know, like, I like, if there's another platform that I would start playing on in some way, it would be Steam. That would be like the next platform I would like. And I have games on Steam, but it's just, I actually have probably like 3 Steam accounts. I don't even know. I think I bought Civilization like 4 times at this point, but I feel like that would be the next place I'd jump to. So this is like an interesting tool for me. But when I look at that stick placement, I'm like, there's just no way I can deal with that. I'm telling you, it was the same reason why I couldn't play Wii U. I had no idea what they were even thinking doing that. It made it unplayable.
Looks super uncomfortable.
I agree. I totally agree. Dustin, do you think Sony is paying attention to this and thinking about anything?
I think that they're I mean, yeah, they're definitely paying attention, but I think that the one smart aspect, I think, is that Sony was like, okay, we want to have another pillar of our business. And they tried out VR, and it did pretty well. And I think that that's now their other pillar is VR. And so I think the Vita really burned them. And I'm just trying to figure out what would be a solution that would make sense for them. Could they design a portable that can play certain versions of PS4, PS5 games that are digital. Like, I just don't see them pitching to developers, hey, we have a portable that's going to play its own unique games again after Vita. I think devs are going to be like, yeah, no, never again.
Right. I think you're absolutely right there. I also think what Chris said earlier was really salient about, in the case of this device, aiming towards the very people that don't really need it. And I think that was, or like don't necessarily want it because they want fidelity. They want all these things that they can just have elsewhere. I think Sony's insistence on bringing games to mobile is exciting if they have trophy support and really try to put some cool features there. So it shows that their mind is over there. But I really insist that this is a space that should not be left uncontested. I'm happy that someone is getting involved trying to do something there. And I think you're absolutely right too, Dustin. And I said this to Micah when I was reading about this earlier when I was putting the show together. I was like, it's time for a portable PlayStation 4. If they can do something like this, why can't we get some weak-based 2013 PS4 in some sort of slimline model that has a screen on it and can be played and is pretty expensive? I feel like people might play something like that. I don't think it's going to be realistic that you're going to have something next generation, but wouldn't it be interesting if Sony did what you said and said, it was like, fine, well, we have a huge back catalog of games anyway. So, and PS4 games are going to continue to come out for years, even not from first party, but certainly from third parties. So do you think that that's possible? Do you think that that's technologically possible? This is where my ignorance comes in.
I'm trying to think, like, comparing I haven't really dove into the specs of the Steam Deck, but you got to think the base PS4 hardware at this point is so old that you would be able to do something like that. And one other advantage to them doing something like that is they're like, hey, we have this device and it's only going to play digital games because it's portable. It's not like you're going to be able to hook up a disk drive for your old PS4 games. And so that could push people towards, the resistant people like me to buying more digital games in order to be able to play it on this portable platform. So that's interesting. I'd have to look into more of the specs and see. I would think,
I have them
my
up here.
gut tells me it would be.
I have them up here. I don't know. So it says CPU Zen 2 4C/8T. And then GPU 8 RDNA 2 CUs. 16 gigabyte LPDDR5 RAM, etc. and so on. 16:10 aspect ratio, which is weird.
That is odd.
So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I feel like that would be, I don't know, Sony, like, come on. I know you seem so interested in VR. I feel like that's a really promising place to be too. Don't get me wrong, and I've long been a proponent of VR and the promise of VR, both inside and outside of games. But I feel like there's even more promise by getting into handhelds again. Even if they don't want to support it themselves, start making some gimped versions of your old hardware and sell them. If you're so proud of PS4 and don't want to abandon them,